In this, the public's role cannot be overstated. The panel envisioned a framework that leverages crowdsourcing, possibly via smartphone applications, to capture a broader spectrum of data, ensuring more eyes and ears on the ground. Lastly, we delved into the safety concerns UAP present within U.S. airspace. By integrating UAP collection within our current aviation reporting system, the panel believes we can provide insights into potential safety risks. NASA can reduce the stigma associated with pilots reporting anomalies, and fundamentally, by studying events we don't understand, we advance our understanding. So in conclusion, with a rigorous methodology, collaborative efforts, public engagement, NASA can be a key player in the whole of government approach to understanding UAP. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all of our speakers. We will start taking questions. For those in the room, we have a microphone over here that we would ask you to speak into. We will also be alternating with questions from those on the phone line. For those of you who are in the phone line, please press *1 to get onto the queue. We will try to answer as many as we can today. We'll see how it goes. Please, sir.
Thank you very much. This is directed to Mr. Nelson. Thank you for being here. Two quick questions. One is, how can we make the determination of what something isn't when we don't know what it is? And B, after a careful review of the data, if it's determined that some, underline the word some 10 times, UFOs or UAP originate from a non-human intelligence, what's the plan to disclose that to the public?
And can you identify yourself, please?
James Fox. Thank you.
I'm sorry, and what outlet?
Independent media. Thank you.
Well, let me repeat.
It's on.
Let me repeat what I said. I think it's important that you hear this word for word. The NASA independent study team did not find any evidence that UAP have an extraterrestrial origin, but we don't know what these UAP are. The mission of NASA is to find out the unknown. I've said several times in my comments here today that we, NASA, deal openly, and we will be transparent on this. And we're trying to address the question of there's so much concern that there's something locked up, classified, and that the American government is not being open. Well, we are the American government, and we are open, and we're going to be open about this. We don't, again, I'm going to repeat that statement, but we don't know what these UAP are, but we're going to try to find out.
Thank you very much. And is there a plan in place if it is determined that some of them represent
James
or
Fox
originate
over
from a non-human intelligence to tell the public? Is there a plan or?
If we are what I said we intend to be, which is transparent, you bet your boots. We will say that. And I've tried to set the table for you by telling you what I personally believe in a universe that is so vast that could there be a replication of life on Earth elsewhere in another solar system that is so big? Of course I believe that. The distances, it would have to be a very advanced civilization. The distances, you know, light years, hundreds of light years, billions of light years. But whatever we find, we're going to tell you.
Thank you very much.
Great, and we'll move on to the next question. Please do identify yourself.
Thanks. This is Joey Roulette from Reuters. Question for Bill Nelson or any of the other panelists. So you've appointed a director of UAP research. Have you named someone to that role? And what kind of investment are you considering making in this? Is this going to be a new program office? Have you thought of funding figures, et cetera? Thanks.
Yes, we have. We've already appointed the person. They've been working there for a while now, like during this study, to help be a point of contact. And we're, you know, any budget discussions, of course, are part of a very intricate federal budget request, and so they're not something that we discuss openly. But we will certainly look at what resources need to be allocated.
And can you name the official who's in
We
that
will
role?
not give his name out, no.
Okay, thanks.
Interesting.
Thank you. We'll take another one from in the room.
Hello, Dan Rivers from British broadcaster ITV News. I heard the word stigma mentioned several times, that you want to remove the stigma. Is your message to pilots and other people that this is no longer the preserve of cranks, and that you won't be laughed at, and that you will take them seriously? Is that the takeaway?
That is exactly the message. I mean, at NASA, we're scientists. We love data. We love all data. And if there is something that needs to be reported, and we want people to be able to feel that they can report that. You know, we spoke in the open hearing that we had here just a few months ago. Dan, remind me when it was?
May 31st.
May 31st. And we actually talked then about we wanted to remove the stigma, and we also did not tolerate any of the abuse that some of our members of the panel were receiving, particularly on social media, for doing this really important scientific study. So absolutely, we want pilots, and both, as Bill said, you know, both private pilots, commercial pilots, military pilots, to feel that if they see something, they need to report it.
I want to say, and I want to repeat the way I said it, we want to shift the conversation about UAPs from sensationalism to science.
I think of this in
All right.
terms of the signs we see around for security, which say, if you see something, say something. I think in this context, we would summarize it as, if you see something, collect high-quality data on it, because then we can learn.
If I may, I just noticed in the report the Go Fast incident was one that was picked out, and that had been held up as an example of a very credible sighting that you seem to be pouring doubt on. Can you just talk to that?
I mean, we looked at that as one example, and you know, I think this is something that Arrow has actually done a very good job of going through the events. And
Arrow's done a
most
good job.
events,
What?
are going to turn out, even if there are some events that in the end turn out to be something novel, most events are going to turn out to be conventional things, balloons, airplanes, and so on.
That's probably true.
I think of the process of discovery of anomalies as looking for a needle in a haystack. And if you want to find a needle in a haystack, you've got two choices. Either you know exactly what the needle looks like, and you design a very good filter to look for the needle. It's called match filtering in sort of AI work, machine learning, signal processing. Or you don't know what you're looking for. And with anomalies, that's really the case we're in. We're looking for things we don't understand. So if you want to find something strange in a haystack, you better know exactly what hay looks like. And you better be able to characterize that really well. And that's why in a process like this, and this is something that I think we bring to this as we look for anomalies, is you need to know what typical regular things look like under all conditions. You need to know what balloons look like when pilots see them, so under unusual conditions, so that you can eliminate those events. And that's why
That's true.
in identifying anomalies,
What do you guys think so far?
understanding the normal is a very important part of it. And
Let me know in the
understanding that
comments
under
here.
different observing
Chat.
conditions.
I'll read them out.
And collecting data in a uniform way. I mean, this is what we do when we study anomalies in space science or other areas of science. And what we're trying to do is bring this approach to this field by saying, collect high quality data, understand the normal events, and that's how we move things forward.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the next question, please.
Hello, I'm Nomia Iqbal from BBC News. Just to follow up on the stigma question, UAP, that term has been used in part to destigmatize UFOs.
James
the fact
is just
most
always
people use
in
UFOs.
camera.
Most of the American public, most of the world use that term. So I wonder how much is the stigma still a problem for you, and what are you practically doing to about it, really, to convince people? And my second very quick question, in your report I noticed that you said AI is a very essential tool for identifying rare occurrences. Yesterday we were at this big AI summit where you had 100 senators meeting all the big tech tycoons, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and speaking to some senators afterwards, they said, we are concerned about AI, we need it to be regulated. Does that concern you? Are you worried that it might hamper your work? Thank you very much.
Well, two big questions. First of all, do I personally believe that AI needs to have some boundaries? The answer to that for our existentialism.
We don't want to hear your personal
Yes.
beliefs. No offense.
Can you do that within the appropriate bounds so that, as I said in my remarks, that we're going to utilize AI as one of the tools as we search for what is an answer to the UAP. And so no, I don't think that any attempts that the Congress has underway to try to write a law that would appropriately put guardrails around AI for other reasons is in any way going to inhibit us from utilizing the tools of AI to help us in our quest on this specific issue. Now, what was your other question?
Just how do you destigmatize the whole thing? Because I know you call it UAPs, but people don't refer it to in that way.
Yeah. Well,
Sure they do.
there's a mindset. We all
Lots of people
are
do.
entertained by Indiana Jones in the Amazon and finding the crystal skull. So there's a lot of folklore out there. That's why we entered the stage, the arena, to try to get into this from a science point.
I think you can blame the X-Files for a lot of this as well.
That possibly too, but just remember what I said. We NASA are trying to shift it from sensationalism to science.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
And we do have a long line in the room, but I want to give a couple chances to some people on the phone line, so I'm going to go to the phone for our first question there. Please do introduce yourself and ask your question. The phone, can you hear me?
Our first question is from Marcia Dunn with the Associated Press. Your line is open.
Yes, hi, Marcia Dunn, AP. I'm already receiving emails on Area 51 in Roswell, so I would like to ask Mr. Spergel, how much were you and your fellow panel members hassled or bombarded by this sort of thing during the course of your study? And for NASA, are you not naming the director of UAP research for this very reason, so that they're not hassled and bombarded by the fringe element? Thanks.
I would divide kind of emails and tweets into two types, right? There's some where people honestly are curious about things they've seen, they've heard. There are things that are hard to respond to, like my uncle who's dead saw something strange, and you get a report. And that's
I wish they had better cameras set
that's
up
not
for this.
useful, but that's harmless. On the other hand,
closer.
one of the things that happened during the study,
Close up here.
and this may be part of a bigger discussion of cultural behavior on social media, where people behaved badly, and I would say harassed some of our panel members. And that, I think, was very inappropriate behavior one doesn't want to see. Sadly, I think it's part of a deeper problem when people somehow feel on the web, on social media, they can be nasty and hostile. And
Yeah, this is about every
sadly,
topic,
some of
dude.
our
What are
panel
you
members
talking about?
experience that.
I would just simply add to that to say that not only were some of the things that our panel members received during the course of this study simple trolling, some of them actually rose to actual threats. And as a result, we at NASA take the sanctity of the scientific process and the security and safety of our team extremely seriously. And yes, that's in part why we are not splashing the name of our new director out there. Because science needs to be free. Science needs to undergo a real and rigorous and rational process, and you need the freedom of thought to be able to do that.
They're still snickering about this.
Some of the threats
in the middle
and the
of
harassment have been beyond the pale, quite frankly, towards some of our panelists. And yes, it's important that science be free as part of that process.
Thank you so much. We will go to another question on the phone, please. Please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Our next question comes from Tom Clark with Sky News London. Your line is open.
Oh, hi there. Thank you very much for taking my question. I want to understand how much, you won't give us an idea of money, but how many assets or new research programs will be devoted to this by the administration. Because it strikes me that although the argument for aviation safety is clear,
gotta admit, guys,
there
this is
are
kind of
other
boring.
departments and agencies responsible for that particular thing. And as the report concludes, the likelihood of there being extraterrestrial explanations or truly scientific explanations for many of these phenomena is very, very small. Shouldn't NASA devote its research budgets and its efforts to those much more likely and tangible signs of extraterrestrial life through things like the James Webb Space Telescope or extrasolar planets detection?
We're already doing that, dude. What a dumb question. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. Look, it's the U.S. government.
Yes, obviously we
Look
don't
how many
discuss
things we
budget
handle
openly,
at one time.
But we are committed to supporting the whole of government study into UAP. All of our data are open. In fact, if you look at the report, you'll see a very large sort of background material or supplemental material in there.
Report is up, guys.
Because we literally released everything because that's what we do at NASA. We do have our key agency goals. We have obviously our goals in the Science Mission Directorate.
I'll put it in the description
our themes
after
that
the
we
stream,
follow, and one of those, as the administrator described, is the search for life elsewhere. And we do that, and he described the research beautifully. I think he may be going for my job, actually, but he described the research so well that what we need to find is a rocky planet around a hospitable star that isn't too violent, that is in just that right place, that has signatures of water and signatures of carbon, so the building blocks of life. And we continue to strive to do that. We do that with the James Webb Telescope. We'll be doing that when we launch the Nancy Grace Roman Telescope that even has a coronagraph around it to block out the light of the neighboring stars and really let us look at those possible planets. And then beyond that, the next big telescope recommended by the Astrophysics Decadal is the Habitable Worlds Observatory, actually a mission designed to look for hospitable and find like Earth 2.0 in another stellar system. And so they really are in the forefront of our goals at NASA. So thanks so much for the question.
All right, yeah.
I'm going to ask...
Just jump in to clarify something. Will you be devoting any new resource or research projects to this particular aim then, given that's where the interesting questions really are? Should NASA spend time and budget pursuing the much less likely task of finding signs of extraterrestrial life in small objects within or close to the Earth's atmosphere?
Yeah, we should look at that, dude.
I mean,
Who is this guy?
Obviously, our instruments are designed to look for the phenomena that we study at NASA. If any of our data are useful, if any of our data are applicable, then we absolutely will be devoting that and turning that over through our liaison to the whole of government approach. We are not at this time intending to design a mission to do this. That is not part of our kind of overarching NASA direction. We are looking at providing some research support. So if somebody wants to write a research proposal, send it in through the regular channels. We will be looking for ways to do that. And we also talked about supporting sort of the citizen science and the broader like repository of data. Dan, do you want to add to that?
NASA's data are free and publicly accessible for the entire world to download. And we pride ourselves on that fact. And it's this openness of data and our approach, which is why we're all here today. To answer your specific question about devoting research budgets to the potentially truly interesting ones, well, I think as David said, you have to understand the chaff in order to really understand and pinpoint the potentially interesting ones, okay? So we are in such a data poor regime at the moment that we need to turn it into a data rich one to do that. And we employ NASA's assets, many other partners' assets as well in that quest.
And if your question suggests, and I do not know that it does, but if it suggests that NASA ought to keep its nose out of this, well, let me tell you, NASA is not a place that's going to hide its head in the sand. Now, is there interest in this phenomenon in other agencies? In my previous life in the Senate, I was privy to talk to the Navy pilots and to see the video of what they encountered off the coast of California in 2004.
So the tic-tac.
That was in a classified setting then. But this is now. And you have now seen that video. And you have heard from those former Navy pilots. Is that of a concern to the Department of Defense? Of course it is. And
They don't act like
therefore,
it.
we're going to continue our search from a scientific point of view. It's going to be, if those other agencies continued their search, we're going to be glad to join in with them. But our stuff is going to be open.
Great. I'm going to take one more from the phone before we go back to the floor. We have a lot of...
So John with Ultimate Sunrise says, meanwhile, SETI is studying effects of microwaves with a $100 million budget. Yeah, exactly. Good point, John.
Our next question comes from Jeff Faust with Space News. Your line is open.
Hi. I know the press release states that NASA is still evaluating the independent study team's report and its recommendations. Does NASA plan to publish a formal response to the report and its recommendations? And if so, what timeline can we expect to see that?
So let me give you a quick preview about how this works. So we have only very, very recently received the report, and what you have seen today in our press release represents our initial actions in recognition of the urgency of this matter. And yes, we will be following up as appropriate with additional actions, suggest the recommendations and act on them in light of budget and many other priorities. But we'll be announcing more in the future.
Great, thank you. Please, back to the room. Identify yourself too, please.
All right,
Good
so
morning,
this
Sam
isn't gonna
Cabral
stop.
with BBC News Digital. We've been talking a lot about shift from sensationalism to science today. Has NASA been in touch with the Mexican authorities about the rather sensational revelations earlier this week of 2 allegedly non-human corpses? And what, if any, importance do you attach to these discoveries?
Look at everyone laughing.
I think David had
Look, it was ridiculous. But
prep for that one?
Well,
They're
this
already
is something
smiling.
that I know I've only seen on Twitter. So it's, when we have unusual things, you want to make data public. I think of this as like NASA has one of the most valuable samples from outer space, lunar rocks. What do? We make them available to any scientists who want to work on this. We don't know the nature of those samples that were shown in front of them.
True.
If I was the Mexican government, I would are making recommendations to the Mexican government. That's not our charge here. We're doing this for NASA. My recommendation was if you have something strange, make samples available to the world scientific community, and we'll see what's there.
Well, they kind of
I'll
laughed
just
at
add
it and
that
don't even want to look at it,
one of
debunking
the
it
main
from afar.
goals of what we're trying to do here today
right.
is
don't
to
know.
move conjecture and conspiracy towards science and sanity, and you do that with data, as David says, and that's the whole purpose of this study and this roadmap.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Brandy Vincent from Defense Scoop. Thank you all for doing this. I actually have 2 lines of questions, if it's okay. First, for Ms. Fox, what's the timeline and immediate actions that NASA is pursuing specifically with ARROW now that the report has been completed? And what mechanisms are NASA and DoD really using to share information and collaborate securely? And do you see more coming? And then separately, for Mr. Spergel, I noticed in the final report a lot of the images and media that were added were from DoD, snapshots that we'd previously seen from DoD data. Not much from FAA, if anything, not from other agencies. Can you speak to why that is and what all you used beyond DoD to inform your report?
Okay, good question.
Dr. Fox, Dr. Spergel.
Why is
I'll
nobody
pass to
bringing
you
up
next.
David Grush in the hearing?
So,
That's what I want to know.
Our immediate actions, I think there was such a lot in those questions. So the immediate actions, we've established our director of UAP research. They're working across the whole of government. They're working very closely with ARROW. They are the sort of central point for all of the collaboration.
Working closely with ARROW.
I'm not sure what else you asked. I'm
Did
sorry.
they help
What
them launch that
mechanisms are you
website?
using to share data and information with the Defense Department?
All mechanisms available to us. As Dan
Such as?
eloquently said, all of our data are open and public. So actually, I mean, we share everything with everybody, so everybody can access our NASA data.
I mean, do you have like a specific repository or mechanism or channel specifically with DoD where you're sharing information? Can you just expand a little on how ARROW and DoD are working ARROW and
Details.
NASA are working so deeply to share things?
Sure. Do you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to handle that. So as Nikki beautifully said, all of NASA's data is open and accessible to the public. If DoD on a specific instance need to tap our
So Fly on the Wall says the Nazca bodies hoax was conclusively debunked 2 years ago. Come on, people. I mean, yeah, you're right. But we should look into it again and just knock it off, right? Just cross it off the list ultimately.
And the answer is actually straightforward, that ARROW
Yes,
is
it
the
was
lead
ridiculous.
agency in the government. So FAA reported events go to ARROW. So they're the central collection agency.
Interesting.
And that, actually, if you go to the ARROW site, they have a pretty
What?
complete list of things
What?
they've
The
analyzed.
ARROW website?
and are-
The one that just
are
got put
trying
up
to make
days
public.
ago?
Though with ARROW, and this is just something I think is worth repeating in the context of looking at images that come from military satellites and intelligence community. It's important to remember that things are, images taken by military instruments are classified, not because of what's in the image, but because of the nature of the measuring instrument. And I think this is one of the
That's been brought up before.
unique things that NASA brings here, is NASA is about openness and transparency.
Really?
When NASA makes
When the
measurements,
government says transparency,
NASA has
it's a joke.
across all of it does, this program of making its data open and available. And of course, because it's not making measurements with classified instruments, that enables it to do this. And that one of the things that NASA brings to this space.
Thank you. And just a really quick clarification, because I think it's important. The NASA ARROW liaison, is that official the same as your new UAP head of research?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, good question.
All right, one more in the room before we go back to the
Ultimate
phones.
Sunrise says they need access to atomic energy reports, 1940-ish and up. You are right, John. I
My
agree.
question is for
And a lot more
Mr.
reports.
Nelson. You said at the beginning of the meeting that that NASA will be transparent. Well, a month and a half ago, Mr. David Grush said under oath in Congress that the U.S. government is in possession of UAPs and extraterrestrial life. How can you be sure at NASA that other parts of the U.S. government is being transparent?
I don't speak for other parts of the government, but I can tell you NASA, which I speak for, is open and transparent with our data.
Do you believe what Mr. David Grush said, or is he lying?
You would want me to give a personal opinion?
Yes, please.
Of what he said. What he said, if I recall having seen this
All right, now we
on
do
the
wanna hear
nightly
your
news, was that he had a friend that knew where a warehouse was that had an UFO locked up in a warehouse. He also said he had another friend that said that he had parts of an alien. Whatever he said, where's the evidence?
When did he say all
My
this?
response.
Excuse
I
me.
don't
He
know.
also said that he did interview over 40 employees.
Thank
at
you. Who's
the
this guy?
Pentagon.
Great job.
Long time ago, there was a TV show,
Oh, great.
Jack Friday, and he used to say,
Here we go.
just the facts,
Yeah.
just the facts.
All right.
Show me the evidence.
He's talking about Dragnet.
Thank you, sir.
This
All right,
guy.
we will go to the phones again.
I mean,
know
what a
people have
cop-out
lots of
for a
questions, but I'm
question.
going to try to keep
Right,
us to
what a
just to
cop-out
one
to
for
that
each
question,
person.
y'all.
And
They
so
just
next
talked about
person on the phone,
transparency.
go ahead
It's
and
a joke.
introduce
They
yourself.
think David Grush is a joke. David Grush, I
The
haven't
next
heard him
question
say any of
comes
that
from
stuff.
Gina Cesari with ABC News. Your line is open.
This is for Senator Nelson. Your report mentioned that AI could be very useful in helping in this investigation. How do you see that, sir?
Well, why limit us in anything in interpretation of data? And AI is just coming on the scene to be explored in all areas. So why should we limit any technological tool in analyzing data that we have? I said AI was one of the things that we were going to employ.
As you should.
I mean, we use AI, or artificial intelligence and machine learning throughout our NASA science portfolio. It is an amazing tool for helping us to actually find often signatures that are sort of buried in data. And so a lot of our data are just sort of wiggly line plots. We get excited about wiggly line plots, by the way. But sometimes you see the wiggles and you miss a signal in there. And by using artificial intelligence, we can often find signatures. So one example we've had is to be able to find signatures of superstorms using very old data that really
All
is
right, that's
before sort of
fascinating and all.
like routine.
Okay, I'll read a couple comments here. Look, Ultimate Sunrise says transparency as long as in a secure SCIF, maybe. Yeah, if they give the people the SCIF. No, I agree, John. If they do that. And there it goes. He's planted the seed of jackassery. Correct. Agreed.
And so you can start subtracting the hay and look for the needles behind.
So let me just take this moment to try to demystify AI and ML.
Thank you.
When, as scientists, and probably many of you in high school were trained to do this, we had some data. You took your data, you drew a graph, you put a line through it. You had data in 2 dimensions, X and Y. Right now, much of our data is in a much higher dimensional space. And if you're working with something like ChatGPT, it's in a high dimensional space of language, or tokens, if you want to get technical, with 12,000 tokens in the ChatGPT 3.5, for example. And machine learning is a powerful tool for representing functions in high dimensional space. That means we get to work with data in a high dimensional space. AI is very powerful, but it's no more powerful than the data you give it. It's a way of, this is why it's very powerful, say, with NASA's weather and climate data. We've got an incredible amount of data, and it's data that you want to do more with than just put a line on a graph. You want to extract all that information or more information in that high dimensional space. And I think we're just really discovering the power of that tool. And it's one of the tools NASA and, not just scientists, but I think a lot of people in a lot of different industries are using to learn new things about high dimensional data. But it always comes back to the data you feed into your analysis,
what do you guys
whether
think
it's
so far of
a
this,
line on a graph paper or
Press conference? I
high-dimensional
don't know what you
space
wanna call it.
explored with machine learning.
Curious what y'all
And if
think
you don't
so
got
far.
good data, you're not going to learn things.
What'd
I'm
you
going to
learn new
add
in
one
this?
sentence. Sorry. High dimensional does not mean high space dimensions, not interdimensional travel. We're talking about multiple parameters here. Okay. Karen.
Great. We are coming close to time. I want to get 2 more questions in. We're going to do one on the phone and one more in the room. And hopefully, if we keep our questions short and our answers short, we'll get to those 2. For anybody who's here who hasn't had a chance to ask a question, you are more than welcome to send an email, and we will try to get you answers as quickly as possible. So one more on the phone, please.
Yes, our next question comes from Peggy Holliger with Financial Times. Your line is open.
Thank you very much, and thank you for allowing me to ask a question. I'm curious about you saying here that you want to rope in crowdsourcing, but also you speak specifically about the potential of using commercial assets as well as your own. I'm curious about, can you just give me a bit more detail how you will do that? Will that be through commercial contracts, or will you ask for voluntary reportings of sightings? And also, I think that's when you talk a lot about the importance of sensor, I'm going to use the word harmonization, because there's no kind of harmonization between the way the sensors work. Presumably that would be the same for the use of commercial assets. You know, how does that use of commercial assets and crowdsourcing square with the sensor harmonization that you talk about? And who's going to pay for all this? Thank you.
So let me just say a little bit about crowdsourcing. Much of what we have in mind is taking advantage of the fact that there's several billion of these floating around, right? And they take, I'm holding up a cell phone for those on the radio. They take wonderful, high-quality images, have high-quality metadata, record local magnetic field, sound, gravitational field. There's a wealth of data that a cell phone takes, and you can imagine designing apps that make the images relatively tamper-free. You can at least make it hard to do. And I think if we have a collection where interesting events are collected by citizens, hosted, and you have multiple images of the same event, we will be able to learn a lot. And, you know, one of the things NASA supports is citizen science. And I think that the idea that if you see something you don't understand, collect data, we aggregate the data and we learn from it, is important in this context, and just, I think, in some ways, an opportunity to engage the broader public in doing science.
Great. Our last question, please, from the floor.
Yep. Thank you all for doing this. Joe Khalil with News Nation. My first question is, you've described harassment of some of the panelists. While that is horrible and never a good thing, it does sort of come with the nature of public officials. You know, Mr. Nelson, as senator, lawmakers get that kind of thing all the time. Is that the justification for keeping this new position, Director of UAP Research, private? Do you plan on doing that forever? Is that a temporary thing? Because it seems to cut against the dedication to being open and transparent.
Correct.
If
Thank
this person
you. Great
forever
question,
is not going to be revealed, their identity, who they are.
Yeah, okay, so at the time, yes, we are withholding that name. Let's not forget that we've only just received this report. And what we need to do now as an agency is come together and provide a cohesive and coherent response to it that addresses multiple findings and recommendations, okay? We're only announcing initial actions today. Will that person's name be disclosed, to answer your specific question? Potentially, yes. But again, we need to ensure that the scientific process and method is free, okay? That's my response.
What does that have to do with
And just lastly, the report says that you relied on unclassified material. You've given a very understandable description for why the DoD classifies certain images and videos. Why did you all not have access to classified material, and could you have, done that?
I have.
Okay.
So
and?
just understand that.
Ooh.
Let the committee speak for themselves.
So one of the
Oh, this thing is
reasons
so
that we restricted
frustrating, y'all. I don't
ourselves
know about
this
y'all.
study to unclassified data is because we can speak openly about it. And in so doing, we're aiming again to alter the discourse from sensationalism to science, as Administrator Nelson beautifully said. NASA personnel, as appropriate, know how to talk to DoD on a classified basis, but the purpose of this study was to tell us what open data we could use in combination with the power of science to move our understanding forward. Okay? That was the purpose, and we're speaking about it openly today.
And so one of the
And
challenges you
I'm
talked
afraid we do have to wrap up. We are at time. So thank you, everybody, for being here today. Again, for those people who were not able to get questions, I do apologize for not doing it in the room. However, please send an email based on our press release. You will have information to access, and we will try to get you the answers we can. And with that, we're concluding today's press briefing, and thank you very much for being here.
Wow.
Thank you.
Okay. Interesting. All right, y'all. What do you guys think? Last comment here from this from Ultimate Sunrise. He says, "This is exactly what I expected to happen. The bombshells are going to happen like the others out of the blue." Yeah. You know, this was definitely a nothing burger. Now, granted, there's a lot of information in the report, and I guess, I don't know. I don't know why they didn't have the report out, kind of displayed and maybe going over it. That's what I thought was going to happen. I don't know. What's y'all's overall thoughts? I was a little disappointed in the David Grush answer. I mean, what did that guy say? He said, my buddy. I mean, did you see the way he like, oh, my friend. That's no friend. This guy interviewed 40 people, right? And not only that, the inspector general also did a separate report. How did they not know this stuff, right? To sort of back up his initial investigation. This is very frustrating. I'm curious what everyone's going to say about this. I kind of already know, right? What new did we learn? They still think of it as a joke, even though they simultaneously are trying to say we're trying to remove that from it. I think what they need to understand is that the public thinks David Grush's claims are credible, and so do other people in the government. And when they answer those questions like that, not taking it seriously, right? I think we all just kind of like dismissed it because of that. Right? How can they not put two and two together? Take those questions more seriously, you know, because that's what the public wants. Yeah. All right. Connor Jewell says, committed to openness maybe meant, and transparency, but keep the director anonymous. Yeah, exactly. That doesn't make sense. Now, if they're keeping them secret because of public backlash and like trolling on Twitter and these sorts of things, I mean, hello, that's all public officials. Again, like they said, right? Like that doesn't make any sense. I'm curious why he is staying private. Is it because when we find out who it is, we're just like, oh gosh, okay, forget it. I think those guys need to stop worrying about that and do their job. And David, who the guy was clueless, Connor Jewell says, yeah, exactly. The David Grush question, which came at the end, was nonsense. And to be honest, if I was those people in the room, I'd be upset that they're taking questions over the phone. Like, hey, I came in person here and waited in line. These people are on the phone. Yeah, the phone one should have been taken after everyone who was there in person, personally. But and I like that James Fox was just always there. He asked this question, then he stepped to the side, and he was just like there the whole time. And I appreciate that. I like that guy. I did an interview with him about Moment of Contact. Great guy, great conversation. Really, really like that guy a lot. So yeah, I'm curious what everyone is going to say about, you know, this report. You know, is it serious? You know what? Let's take a look at it real quick. Here is the report. Right here. Here, I'll move this. Hang on. Right there. Okay. There's all the people involved. It's okay. A lot of doctors and whatnot, right? Here's the table of contents. You can see everything there. So this is members of the NASA Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena Independent Study Team. They show a picture of this as their first picture, right? This is a type of lightning known as a red sprite, a phenomenon that has rarely been photographed in this amount of detail. Some thunderstorms produce sprites, but most do not. Okay. So they're basically just trying to push that, right? Like, this is what you should be looking at. It's more than likely things like this than anything else. Let me read some of these comments here that are coming in. Richie Summer says, so they want us to do their jobs. Yeah, exactly. Right. They were like, citizen science, we support it. But you don't. Because you just, they just make these claims that they don't make sense. You don't support citizen science. Right. It's ridiculous. All right. Connor Jewell says, and News Nation with the proper questions. I wonder if he'll be allowed back. Haha. Yeah, I agree, man. He asked some good questions. I like that guy. Not enough drama to derail the Peruvian alien. Yeah, that's funny. At least there's no CGI and fake orbs on this government release. Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious what everyone's going to say about this. Look, it's just a lot of nothing, really. There's really nothing like, whatever. Here, I'm just going to read this first paragraph here. Executive summary. The study of unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAP, presents a unique scientific opportunity that demands a rigorous evidence-based approach. Addressing this challenge will require new and robust data acquisition methods, advanced analysis techniques, a systematic reporting framework, and reducing reporting stigma. Well, you didn't do a good job on that. NASA, with its extensive expertise in these domains and global reputation for scientific openness, is in an excellent position to contribute to UAP studies within the broader whole of government framework led by the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO. So that's Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick. I don't know. Look at this. At present, analysis of UAP data is hampered by poor sensor calibration, the lack of multiple measurements, the lack of sensor metadata, and the lack of baseline data. Making a concerted effort to improve all aspects is vital, and NASA's expertise should be comprehensively leveraged as part of a robust and systematic data acquisition strategy within the whole of government framework. So they're going to contribute to, this. The panel finds that artificial intelligence and machine learning are essential tools for identifying rare occurrences, potentially including UAP within vast data sets. All right. So, here. The negative perception surrounding the reporting of UAP poses an obstacle to collecting data on these phenomena. NASA's very involvement in UAP will play a vital role in reducing stigma, associated with UAP reporting, which almost certainly leads to data, attrition at present. NASA's longstanding public trust, which is essential for communicating findings about these phenomena to citizens, is crucial for destigmatizing UAP reporting. The scientific processes used by NASA encourage critical thinking. NASA can model for the public how to best approach the study of UAP by utilizing transparent reporting, except on their part. They don't have to. They get to decide, right? Rigorous analysis and public engagement. So you can't tell us that and then not tell us who's leading this whole thing. I mean, it just makes no sense. I don't know. Framework. Although ARROW leads the whole of government response to UAP, the panel recommends that NASA play an essential role within that framework. NASA should leverage its core capabilities and expertise. Okay, yeah. I don't know. Look, they're just showing a lot of, like, you know, natural phenomena. The spectacular aurora borealis, or the northern lights over Canada, is sighted from the space station near the highest point of its orbital path. Okay. I mean, you notice that? Everything, there's no, like, unidentified anomalous phenomena. All they're showing you is identified phenomena, which is interesting. I don't know. Again, they don't take this seriously, y'all. You can just tell from their answers, their faces. They think it's a big joke, and they're only just sort of like doing this because there's people wanting it done, right? But they don't actually believe in it, which is odd. It is odd. I mean, how do they not understand that there's so much smoke? I just think they think it's a joke, like they always have, and they don't take it seriously. Connor Jewell says, to be fair, it is pretty cool to see a report discussing UAPs on NASA letterhead. Hating the ARROW shoutouts, though. This should be a this should be a parallel but separate investigation to ARROW's. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Right, that's basically all that's going to happen. They're all going to come together and then decide that this is all nonsense. Right. But to be fair, probably the majority of these sightings are BS, right? And not BS, but just not what people think they are. And just a small percentage are these unique things, right? That's probably the case, Occam's razor, but who knows? So, look, NASA's UAP independent study team is made up of 16 experts from diverse backgrounds in science, technology, data, artificial intelligence, space exploration, aerospace safety, media, and commercial innovation. So why are those people's names out there in the public? But this one guy who's leading it all, he probably requested, right? So I don't know. Again, look, they're just a meteor strikes across the sky during the annual Perseid, I don't know how to say that, Perseid meteor shower. I guess that's it right there. Again, they're just showing natural phenomena on all this. Yeah, it is cool to see them talk about UAPs on NASA letterhead. I agree. I mean, let's just see what we got here. Whoa. What is that? Oh. A weather balloon sails into the sky after release from the Cape Canaveral weather station in Florida. I've been there to Cape Canaveral. It's been a long time, but what are these other ones? What is that? What is that? What is that? Are these also all weather balloons? I mean, that thing does look strange, man. Yeah, I recommend you guys go through this, look at it, see what you think. Okay, here we go. Footage taken by an MQ-9 of an unidentified object in South Asia with an apparent atmospheric wake or cavitation. Later assessed as a likely commercial aircraft by the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. The cavitation is likely a sensor artifact resulting from video compression. Okay. Likely commercial aircraft. I mean, again, we have zero clue based on this image what that thing is. I mean, like, what what did they do to this image? And you know what I mean? Like, what analysis is done to say that? Interesting. what types of scientific data currently collected and held by nonprofits and companies should be synthesized and analyzed to potentially shed light on the nature and origins of UAP? Yeah, that's what we want to know. Nonprofits, that's interesting. So, okay, so let me read this. The U.S. commercial remote sensing industry offers a potent mix of Earth-observing sensors that have the collective potential to directly resolve UAP events. Then let's do it. For instance, commercial satellite constellations provide imagery at sub to several meter spatial resolution, which is well matched to the typical spatial scales of known UAP. In addition, the high temporal cadence offered by commercial remote sensing networks can substantially increase the likelihood of providing retroactive coverage of UAP events that are initially observed via other means. The limitation on this data is that at any given time, most of the Earth's surface is not covered by commercial satellites at high resolution. For a particular UAP event, we will need to be fortunate to obtain high resolution observations from space. Okay, great. Let me read a couple comments here. Ultimate Sunrise says, maybe just me, but this reminds me of those old black and white Blue Book vids. Yeah, I mean, it's all the same. Same song and dance, exactly, man. It's like new crowd, same show. Oh, this is interesting. Beyond this, the panel applauds the efforts undertaken in the private sector and U.S. academic community to employ one or more inexpensive ground-based sensors that are capable of surveying large areas of the sky. Such sensors, which could potentially be rapidly deployed to areas of known UAP activity, may play a key role in establishing so-called pattern of activity trends, as well as potentially the physical characteristics of UAP themselves. For instance, how about Ryan Graves, right, where he was stationed off the East Coast, northern East Coast, setting up there around all nuclear bases, right? Of course. You know, there's a lot of stuff in here, guys. Check it out. You know, I don't know. Middle East object. So this was the one. That's the close-up they use. I think they do that on purpose. I'm not joking. I really think that they do this on purpose to just show you it's whatever. Like, there are clear pictures of this thing to use. Like, this is kind of crazy. Again, footage taken by an MQ-9 of an apparent silver orb-like object in the Middle East. Due to limited data, the object remains unidentified. So, again, there's better versions of this. I don't know why they're using that. Yeah, I mean, look, they asked some questions and then footage. Okay, they already showed this. Now there's this is a different one. Wait, image 2. Okay, footage taken by an MQ-9 in South Asia with apparent atmospheric wake or cavitation. So cavitation, I learned about supercavitation, like on submarines and missiles, talking with Nick Pope. It's like the way it moves through the water. So I guess they're talking about how it moves through the sky. The cavitation, they're saying this sort of outer part, right, that looks like it's piercing through the atmosphere. They're saying that's a sensor artifact resulting from video compression. Yeah, that does happen. This picture's even worse than the other one. These are like copies of copies of copies. I don't know, y'all. It's a little disappointing. Oh, wow. Okay. So again, see, image captures naturally occurring von Karman vortices forming in clouds near Rishiri to Island in Japan, caused by stable low cloud atmosphere flowing over a tall obstacle. Okay. What? Nobody said they've seen like clouds. Again, it's interesting to put this stuff in there. Right? Sunset over the Indian Ocean. Okay. What is the point of those? I don't understand. Honestly. Just got back. Is that James Fox? Yes, that was James Fox. Yeah, man, guys, I don't know about this. Okay, so here they're going to talk about the Go Fast. Okay, a well-known UAP event is the Go Fast video recorded by Navy aviators from the USS Theodore Roosevelt. A still frame from this video is shown in the figure below, where the infrared camera is locked onto a small object in the center. The video gives an impression of an object skimming above the ocean at a great velocity, but analysis of the numerical information on the display reveals a less extraordinary interpretation. All right, fair enough. So they're saying this object velocity is going 34 knots, roughly 40 miles per hour. So parallax effect, right? Here, they're circling all the numbers. All right. Now, granted, just because the object is only going 40 miles an hour, that doesn't make it any less a UAP. Right? That doesn't conclude it's not a UAP. All they're doing is saying how fast it's going, which is great. Okay. So our calculation has neglected wind effects on the aircraft, and thus there is uncertainty in the result, but the analysis reveals that the object need not be moving at an extraordinary velocity. Okay. Note also that the object appears bright against a dark ocean for these display settings. This indicates that the object is colder than the ocean. Thus, there is no evidence of heat produced by a propulsion system. This further supports the conjecture that the object is most likely drifting with the wind. Interesting. The availability of additional data would enable a more firm conclusion about the nature of this object. So that's interesting. So they're just saying it's going with the wind, right? Again, doesn't necessarily mean it's not a UAP, right? A UFO. I mean, it is still a UFO. But yeah, okay. You know, doing some data. That's what we want. That's... You know, I've had years, y'all. Those videos have been out for years, and this is all we get. Like this is how serious they take it. So y'all decide. Connor Jewell says, did Mick West make this just a very fast seagull? Sure. Full disclosure, I do like Mick West. Whatever you think about him, check out my interview with him. Got another one coming shortly this week. Yeah, we need more Gary Nolans and less Stephen Greer, says Ultimate Sunrise. I agree. Yes. So, look, yeah, y'all check out this stuff. There, they finished with a picture of the Earth. And what's that over here? No, I'm just kidding. You know, all right, you know, tell me, you know, what do you guys think? Was this worth it? Does it move it along? I mean, look, at the end of the day, anything sort of helps bring it out. So if they keep doing this, it doesn't hurt it. Does it move it along further? I don't know. As someone who's watching neutrally, right, who's not really into this, are they seeing this and going, oh, okay, there's some stuff out there, they want to look into it, or this is just nonsense, this is for show? I don't know. I guess we can't really control that, right? I guess my biggest takeaway is, great, I'm glad they're doing this. I didn't appreciate their response to the David Grush question. Again, they need to take this as seriously as the community, right, the public is taking this. That's their job. So, yeah. So, sorry, guys. I do want to apologize for the missteps on the live streams when they first started. I don't know what was going on. I just couldn't get it working. And then their live stream also cut out. I guess just everyone was having problems today. Their live stream cut out as well. And then I tried it again, and the volume was, I don't know, guys. My computer was just acting so weird. So I apologize. Thank you, guys. Third time was a charm. I didn't give up. We got it going. So I appreciate everyone that watched along and it, you know, threw in their comments. And I really appreciate that. So, yeah, we'll see where this goes. And I've had a lot of stuff this week, right? The new David Grush interview, the alien bodies in Mexico, and now this. All different parts, right? So Ultimate Sunrise says, we learned with COVID, they just call citizen science misinformation. Yeah, that's actually a great point. Yeah, that's a great point. And Connor Jules says, so they want public contributions, of which there are thousands of compelling videos, but they focus on the worst of the declassified videos. Exactly. Right. And they spend all this time just concluding how fast it's going. That's it. Maybe press West on Grush 2. Yeah, for sure. Looking to have Mick on. These are interviews I recorded before, so yeah, we're going to get him on again. I just want to wait to get these interviews out before I interview him again. I mean, we have a lot of people lined up for interviews, guys. So definitely subscribe to the channel. Check out the one I've done with Nick Pope, Avi Loeb, Mick West. I got, 2 more coming out. One with sort of one of the heads of MUFON. That one's hit or miss. I'm a little iffy on MUFON. Wonder what y'all think. I'll be putting that out. And then this other one that I did with Mick West, where, again, we don't talk about UFOs. So I did one with him where it's all UFOs, and this one is just getting to know the guy behind all of this. And y'all can, maybe that, I don't know, whatever. I think there's a lot of people on both sides of the aisle that we need to have this conversation move forward. If we don't have anybody debunking or being skeptical or whatever, that's not good. And I know people will try to dismiss other people for not being genuine, or that's your decision. You're allowed to do that, right? That's totally cool. I, for one, look, there's not many skeptics and debunkers out there. So, Mick stays away from the drama. And again, you may agree or disagree with his findings, but I've found him to be very professional and respectful. So, and he definitely is with me. So I'm from Texas, man. I reciprocate that. If someone's nice to me, I'm nice back. It's called manners. So I have no problem with that. We need a little bit more of that. Manners, class, dignity. I don't know where we go with this. It's exciting. We're going to keep putting up some videos. So next video I'm making, I can't remember, honestly. But yeah, be making a video tomorrow as well. I'm actually going to do a follow-up on these Mexican aliens stuff, okay? So I think that's important to follow up on, and we need to get that out of the way as quickly as possible, in my opinion, and move on to, again, David Grush's claims. That, to me, is like top of the mountain, and we should only be focused on that. He gave us a map, X marks the spot. This is where you go look. This is who you talk to. Let's go do that. Everything else is nonsense. Just look at what the guy said in this thing about David Grush. Well, a friend said this, a friend said, we never heard those things. I never heard him say, I have a friend who has, parts of an alien body. I've never heard that. Where is that? Can he point us to that? And he just talks about, well, his friend said this. No. He interviewed 40 people, right? That just shows how disingenuous they are about it, right? And he gave his personal opinion. Well, what's the official statement about that? How can they just ignore that? See, there's something there, y'all. Those are red flags to me. If it's all nonsense, just say, yep, he spoke to these 40 people. Those 40 people are nonsense. Point them out. But they don't. They don't do that. So, yeah, it's frustrating. It's very frustrating. Just trying to discredit this person. Stop trying to discredit him and discredit his claims, not the person. But they don't focus on his claims. So thank you for that News Nation journalist there to sort of push back on that. And he had no answer for that, right? Spoke to 40 people. Anyway, again, they forget to mention that the same investigation that David Grush did, the Inspector General also did it and verified it. So it's not like, right? They got someone independent outside of what David Grush did and looked at what he did and they came to the same conclusion, determined it to be urgent and credible. So, again, wherever you stand on this, that is important. So, again, let's focus on David Grush's claims. If you haven't seen the new interview he did with Jesse Michaels, again, not too much new information. There's a lot of small details about David Grush, seeing him sort of lively and happy and speculative and more candid. That was nice to just see, just a real person, right? Seems very trustworthy to me, to be honest. And he's just saying, look, let's just go look over here. What's wrong with that? I don't see anything wrong with that. Again, attacking him instead of his claims, immediate red flag. Immediate red flag. Why are you doing that? Probably a reason. So check out that film. It's on Jesse Michaels' channel. It's about 2 hours. If you haven't seen it already, it's just got so much other stuff besides the stuff with David Grush. He really dives deep into these other topics, which I really appreciate. And it's a great video. So, yeah, y'all. Thank you guys so much for watching the live stream. I hope you guys enjoyed everything. Thank you guys for commenting and, leaving, your messages and thoughts. That's what's important to me, too. I like reading that and hearing what you guys have to say. So, as always, I'm Patrick with Vetted. We'll see you on the next video.